Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. We are the Ear Taxi Festival team, and we are so excited to be with you today. I am Tim Corpus, the Executive Director for the 2025 Ear Taxi Festival, and we have a lot to share with you about the upcoming festival. And the Ear Taxi Festival is Chicago's preeminent contemporary music festival celebrating art music, and we're thrilled to be presenting this festival once again in 2025. So today we're going to talk to the team that's putting Ear Taxi Festival together. We'll take a look at the overarching goals of the festival, the opportunities for how you can be involved, and we'll specifically talk about the Composer Showcase. Now, there are a lot of ways that folks can be involved in the festival, and we'll be sharing more information over the coming weeks. And also, we'll take time to talk about the next steps and give you a chance to ask some questions to us for how you can be involved. So first, I want to go ahead and introduce our team, which is an amazing team, and Chicago is so extremely lucky to have these four individuals involved. So I'll let everybody introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Larab K. Raphael. I am acting as the artistic director for this upcoming festival, helping along with these fabulous people build out what this festival might look like and what it might sound like. And I'm really excited about what we've come up with so far and looking forward to everything that will come in the future.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be on the team as curatorial director for Ear Taxi. I'm happy to see names that I don't recognize on the chat already, which is one of our big focuses for this festival, which is creating new relationships and new connections throughout the city and state of Illinois. So very happy to be here, and I look forward to being in touch with all of you in the future.
I'm Zoe. I'm the managing director of the upcoming Ear Taxi Festival. I'm really excited that I get to be on board coordinating a lot between venues and different presenters and helping make this amazing festival happen.
And like I said, I'm Tim Corpus, the executive director for the festival, and I'm also a composer. So let's talk about the overarching festival. So as I mentioned, Ear Taxi Festival is a program of New Music Chicago. And New Music Chicago is a 501c3 nonprofit that supports composers and performers, providing education, performance opportunities, and outreach. If you're not a member already, they also have student memberships, so we highly encourage you to check out New Music Chicago and find ways to participate with them. We are building off of the success of the 2016 and the 2021 festivals. The 2016 festival being founded by Augusta Reed Thomas and Stephen Burns. And this is not only the largest contemporary music festival in Chicago, but as far as we know, the largest festival for contemporary music in the Midwest. And this festival, in building off of the success of previous festivals, will take place throughout the Chicagoland area. So we're excited to bring performances to a variety of different venues across Chicago. And through the past festivals that we've seen, it's a huge boost to artists' economy as well as the local economies for certain venues and neighborhoods. So we're excited to be providing partnerships between several different organizations, some of those nonprofits, as well as the performing ensembles and the composers themselves. So stay tuned for more ways that you can be involved, but we definitely want to thank some of our partners that we've already had. Many of these institutions, a lot of us know and enjoy, and they have already signed on to be supportive of this Taxi Festival and supportive of the work and the music that you do. So if you're interested in being more involved at a partnership level, please feel free to reach out. We have a number of different ways that folks can be involved, whether you are wanting to be a presenter, a funder, or if you want to help with some of the marketing and logistics sides of the festival. Moving on now, we're going to talk a little bit more about the activities of the festival, and I'll pass this off to our artistic director and curatorial director.
Great, thank you, Tim. You know, this festival, as Tim was saying, is really taking off from the previous festivals, 2016 and 2021, with a different approach. The scope of this festival hopefully is a little bit different than you might have seen before. But the idea around it is to really engage more deeply with Chicago's musical institutions and, thusly all of the partners and performers and artists that are by extension connected with those communities. So the festival, as you've seen, is titled The Composer's Voice. Both Amy and I thought that, we wanted to kind of create a theme around this festival that really gets, some music going, stir some activity in the artistic community by way of allowing composers to really share their voice through what they're able to create. And then obviously a different approach by incorporating vocal music actually into this new music festival more intently. So the festival, and Amy, feel free to jump in wherever you see fit. The festival will take part in 4 different categories, if you will. The anchor performances, for example, will be basically curated events. We wanted to create touch points for people who will be involved in the festival to really kind of find themselves at performances more consistently. And those anchor performances will be during the weekends of the festival. And sort of on a larger scale, if you will, we wanted to partner with different organizations to create works that people could come and see in between all of the activity that will be happening in the festival. So we hope to have some operatic performances. We hope to have a collaboration with choral and orchestra and so forth. So we're looking forward to how those performances shape up as they do in the next couple of months. Amy?
Yes, I'll take the line there from the anchor performances to the composer showcase performances, which is going to be the focus of this webinar in a few minutes here. The composer showcase is really our biggest platform to get as many new commissions into the hands of composers as we possibly can. We are going to be focusing on Illinois-based composers, and we're going to be combining them with a local ensemble as well as local vocalists. And we'll get more into the details of that as we go. But in all, we're planning to commission 20 new works, all strictly Illinois-based composers, and also create new partnerships between composers and ensembles and vocal artists and ensembles and composers. So we're very excited about this composer showcase branch of the 2025 festival. This is a new edition, and it will be a total of 4 concerts. And I don't remember if Rob mentioned the number of anchor performances, but that will also be in the neighborhood of 3 or 4 performances, 4 composer showcase concerts. And then I'll let Rob continue with the taxi concert description.
Great. Yeah, both Amy and I are really excited about the composer showcases and to talk about them further in this webinar. So moving on to the taxi performances and taxi concerts now. This has pretty much been a staple of Ear Taxi Festival, collaborating with different ensembles and artists to really produce concerts, events, performances of contemporary music. So the taxi performances will happen a little bit differently, where we will ask for those submissions from different ensembles, artists. If you've got an idea for a performance, I believe an hour-long performance, especially if it's in alignment with the festival's theme, the composer's voice, we would love to hear from you. You can submit that proposal. That will happen somewhere down the line this year. We'll look forward to hearing from, again, a vast array of different ensembles and artists to submit applications to perform. There will be a stipend for those performers as well. So the taxi performances really are going to be the bulk of the festival, a lot of ways that people can engage with different ensembles. And then we'll have accent performances as well, Amy.
Yeah, the accent performances really grew from the 2021 festival, and I want to thank the former leaders, Jenny O. Brown, Michael Lewinsky, and Jessica Wolf for doing such a fantastic job with that festival. So we're continuing that tradition. The accent is really our biggest umbrella over the whole city. This provides an opportunity for ensembles to program their own concerts and get kind of on the Ear Taxi bus, or maybe I should say on the Ear Taxi, and be a part of the festival with programming that they are completely in control of. So whatever venue, timing, programming will be kind of under the arch of the Ear Taxi Festival, hopefully within a dedicated time period, either before or after in the weeks prior to and following the festival proper. And again, we're going to have more webinars about the specifics of this later, but this year we're excited to have a microgrant program, which will provide a little bit of support and extra incentive for ensembles to work with Illinois-based composers for their accent performances. So stay tuned for more information about the accent concerts and the microgrant program. But I just want to get it in your mind now that we are really trying to boost up specifically Illinois-based composers and ensembles and vocal artists. So the accent performances are really something to keep an eye on, because we have already had groups approach us even before we made our big announcements that are probably going to be a number of really awesome accent concerts.
Great. And Zoe, do you want to take us through a little bit more of the timeline of the festival?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just a rough overview of what we're looking for the timeline of the festival, and a lot of the different ways that you can get involved with the festival. So we're in June right now. We've just sort of announced again that this is happening, and then it's happening in October of 2025. On Monday, July 3rd, the Composer Showcase application will officially open. So that will be the portal with all the questions that we are going to walk through later, and you can find that on our website. In August of 2024, we will be doing another webinar to talk about the specifics of applying to be a taxi ensemble and have a taxi concert. So you can look for information about that coming soon. And then that application will open in September of 2024. Meanwhile, while all that's going on, we will be deciding on your applications to the Composer Showcase. And in October of 2024, the Composer Showcase results will be announced. Also in October 2024, we will be having a festival launch event, and we're really excited about that. We'll be a year out from the festival and hoping to make big announcements and have an event where we can sort of celebrate with everyone and gear up for the festival. In January of 2025, we will be announcing the results of the taxi concert applications. And then in February of 2025, that will be your time to start submitting concerts to the accent calendar. So as you begin planning your ensemble, your organization's season for the next year, that's kind of the time to let us know about any plans you have that might fit well as an accent concert. And then that'll take us all the way to October of 2025 when we have our festival. We also just wanted to share a little bit about some of the festival venues that we're going to have that we're really excited to be partnering with. So here are just a few of the folks that we've spoken with so far, and some of these are going to be familiar from past Ear Taxi festivals, and some of them might be a little bit new. But as you can see, we're really trying to make sure that this festival spreads across all of Chicago with different venues in different cities, extending all the way up to Nichols Hall, closer to Evanston. And next, we're going to get into the main event, which is talking through the application for the Composer Showcase. So now we're talking about Composer Showcase and the project timeline. Like I said, we're going to open that timeline at the beginning of July. That submission portal will open and it will be on the website. Then that submission portal will close at the end of August. So now is the time after this webinar where you can start to prepare your application and then go ahead and submit it through the portal between July 1st and August 31st. In October of 2024, those commissioned composers will be announced. And then the other big deadline for those composers that are selected is that we will be asking that scores and parts will be due in July 1st of 2025. So that's just important as you think about taking on this project. And then through the 3rd and the 19th of October, during the Ear Taxi Festival, we will have the Composer Showcase performances. So now we're going to get into the questions that you'll see on the application itself.
While Zoe is pulling those up, let me give a quick overview of the people that are going to be involved in this. We are only accepting applications from Illinois-based composers for this commission, and it will be 20 awards in all. That means 5 commissioned composers for each of the 4 ensembles that we have booked. The ensembles, of course, are Illinois-based also.
So you'll see there's a little picture kind of what the application itself will look like that'll accompany all these questions on these slides, just so you kind of can come back to this webinar as a resource if you need it as you're filling out the application. But the very first part is very simple. We're just asking for your personal information, your first and last name, your email address, and to tell us where in Illinois you are based. Next, I'm going to pass it over to Amy, and she'll talk a little bit more about the ensembles you can choose to write for and how we're going to be doing.
All right, so I'll just introduce them one by one. We have Kaya String Quartet. They are a fantastic group of string players dedicated to performing new music around all of Chicagoland. And then we have Quintet Ataka, which is a wind quintet, who they've been in existence for, I think, 15 years, and I'm very excited to partner with them. Third, we have Lakeshore Rush, which is in our category of mixed ensemble. They have violin, cello, saxophone, piano, and flute, and clarinet and oboe. So lots to work with there. And then finally, we are going to have a kind of art song format in the sense that it is vocalist paired with piano accompaniment. All of these ensembles are going to be paired with vocalists. So it's going to be Kaya String Quartet and a singer, Lakeshore Rush and a singer, etc. So when you are thinking about your commission and proposing a project for this, we invite you to kind of dream up what kind of voice you would like to work with. Of course, there's going to be information we're going to ask about the text that you're planning to use in your commission. And we're also going to want to know if you have worked with these ensembles before or not. That's not necessarily something that's going to be, preference one way or another. We just want to know, if you have a background or a history with a certain group or a certain vocalist. I think that is what we need to know about the ensembles, which all of whom we're very excited to work with and super happy to have on board.
Yeah, and as you go to select one of those, you can select one, or you can choose the any of the above option if you're someone that really doesn't think, your proposed piece has a particular ensemble it has to be paired with. Next, I'm going to talk about the next question, which is a little elevator pitch is what we're kind of calling it. And essentially all we'd like to do is have you provide a brief description of the piece you are planning to write. Think of it as a way when we're looking over submissions for us to think about your piece quickly and understand kind of the overview of it. We will give you space later on to give us more details, but this is just a brief summary of the project and the piece you'd like to propose. Next, I'm going to pass it to LaRob, and he's going to talk about choosing a vocalist and what that looks like on this application.
So we thought long and hard about how to create the best opportunities for vocalists, particularly in the Composer Showcase, And we want to give composers, you know, obviously this composer showcase aspect of the festival is really focusing on the composer, and we don't want to limit you. So we want you to think about whatever it is, whether it's the text, the mood, the desire that you have for this new piece, and choose the best voice that you feel might suit that desire. So soprano, alto, tenor, baritone, bass, you can either choose any of those as sung aspects of your piece, or you can choose to have sort of a spoken word or narrative aspect of your piece. One of the things we do want to know is if you have a vocalist in mind for whatever piece that you're writing. So if you know, maybe you've worked with a vocalist before and you're thinking, oh, I want to write a piece for that vocalist. That's good information for us to have. Our idea is that we will pair ensembles with a vocalist, but we definitely want to keep in mind composers who may have already written for vocalists as well. So if you have someone in mind, please let us know in your application, and also let us know if you've worked with them before, and thusly, if you're open to a different singer of a similar voice type. All of this information will be crucial to finding you the best voice for your piece. So just kind of think about all of the desires that you have if you're writing something with voice when you make this selection here.
Let's talk a little bit more about the details of the proposal and what we're asking people to share. Zoe, do you want to dive into this a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said before, we have the little elevator pitch section, and that's for very brief summary of what your planned proposal looks like. Now here is the place to get into more details and really explain, you know, what your project's inspiration is. Maybe you'd like to say something a little bit more about the text you're planning to use, the intent of the piece, the motivation behind the piece. Maybe tell us a little bit more about why you chose a particular ensemble and how that instrumentation might affect your writing. Any use of extended techniques that might be interesting or unique to your proposals, and any other details you find especially relevant. The other important thing here is to let us know how long your proposed piece is going to be. So we're asking for a minimum of 5 minutes and a maximum of 10 minutes. So make sure you also let us know that. Next, I'm going to pass it back to Tim, and he's going to talk a little bit about what we need from you in artist background information.
Yeah, thank you. And so this is your chance to tell us who you are. And we definitely encourage you to be thoughtful in your artistic resume and artist bio. Especially as performers, sometimes we have biographies that will list every performance, but we hope that you tailor this proposal and your biography kind of to showcase what is important to you regarding working with a specific ensemble and the vocalist. So thinking about this as an opportunity to kind of explain yourself in that format. One thing that New Music Chicago is going to be doing this summer, which is very exciting, is a professional development event all about making your press kit. And so stay tuned for information about that. But we're excited to kind of help artists along in building out their press kits, including headshots, biographies, and helping us showcase ourselves better. Also, something, you know, artists, we have a tendency to have a variety of different artistic resumes. So think about how you want to showcase yourself as the composer in what you're doing for this type of work. A lot of us are doing other artistic work. A lot of us are doing teaching and things like that. But we're really excited to see artistic background of each composer and how that relates to this program. So now we're going to take a look at work samples, because this is an important part of the application process.
So we're asking that you share with us 2 to 3 pieces, and not the whole piece, but samples of these pieces. These submissions can be any length, but our reviewers will only listen to 10 minutes total. So if you are submitting a full audio take or video take of a piece, please indicate what you would like reviewers to focus on and listen to by providing timestamps and corresponding numbers, measure numbers for each work sample. So you're going to see 3 areas that look like this where you can submit those works. You're only required to submit 2, but as I said, you may submit up to 3 pieces for us to review, still only 10 minutes in length. And so to do that, you have some options. You can submit audio and video files. You'll see the file options there are WAV, MP4, MP3. And then you can submit separately a work sample score as a PDF, JPEG, or your third option is to put those things all together into a Google Drive folder, or to attach separate links that take us to all those things. So for example, if your work is on YouTube and you want to direct us to a specific timestamp on a YouTube video, you could do that through a link to that YouTube file or a link to that Google Drive. So that's how you're going to go about uploading those work samples. Of course, you can reach out to the team if you have any trouble doing so at our info email, and we'll be in touch about that. But hopefully that makes sense. And if you have any other questions, please let us know.
Great. And we are curious about previous involvement, since this is the 3rd version of the Ear Taxi Festival. Rob, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I'll also just add a plug here that we'll be answering questions toward the end of this meeting. So if you do have questions, don't hesitate to throw them in the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that to respond to them at the end of this webinar. So, we want to know if you've participated in the Ear Taxi Festival in any capacity before. Obviously, we want to keep and further those connections to you, but also we want to provide the best opportunity for newcomers as well. So these opportunities, we want to hear from new voices, hear from new composers. That does not exclude anyone, but we want to know if you've participated and in what capacity. So there will be questions like this on the application. And then we want to know what excites you about this particular Ear Taxi Festival and its theme, particularly because you're submitting a piece. We want to know what your interests are, whether that be your interest in vocal music, your interest in contemporary works, your interest in the ensemble. All of this will be helpful for our reviewers when they're looking at your application and trying to decide and determine which composers will move forward. So as much information you can give us about your involvement and your interest in Ear Taxi Festival as possible, that will be really, really useful to us.
And then once you've done all that, you can submit. We are excited to review all of these applications, and we'll be in touch as soon as we are able. We have a great team that's going to be involved with all of those. And one of the reasons we really wanted to share this information in advance is to give you the time to prepare before the application portal opens up, but then also get your questions in line. So we hope that you take a look at the questions in advance. We also highly recommend, and this is just like with any grant proposal, write out your narratives in a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word or a different platform, just in case the internet goes out, just in case something goes wonky with the application. So that way you make sure that you save it. We just always recommend that so you don't lose your work. So what's next? So this was focused on the Composer Showcase, but we will be doing another webinar in August to talk more about the taxi and accent performances. So stay tuned for that. We'll have more information about that coming out soon. We're also going to be sharing more about the professional development opportunities, because this festival is going to have a variety of different ways that folks can be involved and participate with each other, form new friendships, hopefully new collaborations. So because we're looking at October 2025, a lot of information will be forthcoming. And then we hope you stay tuned for our special launch event, just like Zoe mentioned, which will be in October of this year, 2024. And it's going to be an important fundraiser for this program. We are part of a nonprofit, so all donations and support are very important to us. And if you'd like to be involved in that manner, please reach out. You can also donate at our website. So we are excited to be bringing this to Chicago, and we're looking forward to reviewing all of the applications. So now we're going to take a chance to look at some questions. Hey, everybody. So I see a question here that's come through, and I'm going to ask this one first. Regarding the other opportunities, when will we start sharing any information for how someone could be involved with the other categories? Amy, I think you answered this a little bit earlier, but do you want to reiterate that?
Sure. So the Composer Showcase, we've covered that. That's for composers. Taxi concerts are for ensembles based here in Illinois. And so that's coming up in, was it September, I believe, when that application portal opens. Accent concerts, and actually this is true for both accent concerts and taxi concerts. If you're a performer, you can submit an idea. But if you're a composer, you can also submit an idea that way. If you want to like dream up a concert of performers that you work with, but they aren't necessarily in an ensemble, that's totally great. We want to hear that idea too. So you don't have to be, an established ensemble. You don't have to be already formed necessarily. On the other hand, if you are an ensemble and that's just a straightforward application, that is also, of course, what we're looking for too. I did see a question in the chat about how to be involved with the anchor performance. That's actually going to be a little bit more of our curated portion of the concert. And so we don't really take applications for the anchor performances. So the taxi and the accent and the composer showcase are really where you would be applying for and really telling us your ideas. Because, one of the beautiful things that I have always known and loved about the music scene here in Chicago is just the wealth of ideas. You ask a person you give a person one idea and then they come back at you with 10. And, that's what we're looking for to see in the taxi applications, in the composer showcase applications. The accent concerts, stay tuned for more information, but it's not even going to be as much of an application as more just letting us know what you're doing. So, again, those are coming up in the few months ahead of us here before October, and we'll answer those things in detail about when and how and what the application is going to look like.
Another question that I have seen online, as well as through our emails, is questions about being involved as a staff member, production, or a volunteer. We'll have more information about those positions in the coming months, but you can always reach out to us at our email address or the contact form on the website to stay tuned for that. We also have a mailing list, so go to the website and subscribe to our mailing list, because we'll definitely be sharing all this information and more as soon as we have it via email as well. We have a question here that our artistic team may be able to answer. And I'm sure folks are excited to hear, who are the other ensembles involved? I know we can't share everything, but Amy and LaRob, do you want to say anything more about what's to come in the festival?
Sure, I can. This is a really exciting question, and I think all of us on this call are, bubbling with excitement, and also trying to keep as much, together as possible so that you get excited for showing up to the festival. But I want to just state on the outright that, this festival, the idea behind this festival is really about collaboration amongst institutions here in Chicago. The Ear Taxi Festival is an amazing opportunity for us to see, the best of the best collaborating with the best of the best, because Chicago has nothing but. So there will be many different ensembles who might not have performed or been a part of the festival before that we're hoping to bring together with these wonderful composers who will submit. So you might see some familiar names, you might see some unfamiliar names, but the idea about this festival is that we want to see Chicago's musical community really come together. That means vocalists, that means instrumentalists, artists, administrators, and composers. That's the specified focus of this festival. So I don't want to give out any names just yet. You'll really have to stay tuned for when that comes out. But just know the idea behind this is we want everybody in Chicago to take part in the Ear Taxi Festival.
That's great. Another question for the artistic team, and this is regarding the texts for the vocals. Do we need to have permission for the texts we'd like to use during the application process, or can that wait until the winning composers are announced?
I would like to say that, you know, it's a process and we have a lot of lead up time until the actual performance. I mean, the rights and permission will definitely need to be secured before the performance happens, but if you don't have it by the time of application, I think we can work with that.
Another question here, which I think was answered a little bit earlier about how composers can be involved, but if a composer is involved in either the accent or the composer showcase, can they be involved in both?
I'll take this one too, is that, you know, as we've been talking about, we want the most number of people to be involved as possible. And so the likelihood of somebody getting programmed in 2 separate occasions in Ear Taxi is very low, because we want to have, you know, room for as many people as possible. So you're not restricted by any means from applying. But of course, you know, we will be looking at all applications very carefully. And, you know, this is why we ask, you know, the questions that we do in our application, to avoid, you know, any kind of concentration with one person or group or something. So again, we want you to apply. We want to hear your ideas for so much great music, but we will definitely be taking into consideration, you know, who is doing what and making sure to not double up or triple up as much as possible.
That's great.
Sorry to keep talking here, but I did want to say I saw a question about the schedule, and I wanted to highlight that this is one of the reasons why we're planning everything so far in advance. You know, here we are talking about 2025 in the summer of 2024. What we're doing is we're going to make our schedule as public as we can, as early as we can. So, for example, we've already announced the beginning and end dates, and there's going to be a lot happening in between those 2 dates. And so this is kind of our message to everybody, like, this is what's happening. If you would like to kind of be involved or kind of plan to be around the edges of it, that's probably going to be your best bet for getting the maximum exposure, you know, with the help of Ear Taxi. So the schedule will be released, you know, whenever we are logistically able to do that. But I would say that you can count on performances not every single day between October 3rd and 19th, but most days, and definitely on the weekends of 2025. So I did want to answer that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess be prepared for professional development events throughout the weekdays as well, especially on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. We have plans for those to be networking and artist talks and things like that. So be prepared for that as well. But Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there will be performances. And we're really trying not to have any overlap between performances that are a part of Ear Taxi either. So if there's a concert going on for Ear Taxi, that will be the only concert going on for Ear Taxi at that time.
Yeah, we're really hoping to make sure that everyone can attend as many events as possible. I saw one more question come through, and I'm going to put this here on the screen, but if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us. You can also get on our website and use the contact form. But this is the best way to get in touch with us about any questions you may have, any inquiries, any ideas. We're happy to hear all of those as we continue planning the festival. It's a big undertaking, as you can imagine, and Endless applause and kudos to Zoe, Larab, and Amy for all of their hard work in putting this festival together. And a lot of thanks to our sponsors and, of course, New Music Chicago. So stay tuned for more, and we'll have more information coming for you throughout the summer. And we'll see you on our next webinar, which will be in August. So thanks, everybody, for coming out.